It's the biggest beef in MMA history and it's still going on until today. Ariel Helwani and Dana White. Why do they hate each other so much? What happened there? Let me tell you about it. Hello and welcome to Bloodsport MMA.
Salam alaikum, my brother.
So let me sum this up for you guys as easy as I can. So Ariel Helwani is a sports journalist, right? And he early on in his journalist career developed a big love for the sport MMA, even though back then, I think it was 2008, 2009, something like that, the sport was not that popular. They still thought it was human cockfighting or something.
It's the most retarded I ever heard.
So he then had his own show, the MMA Hour, which still exists today, where he just had fighters coming into his studio and interviewed them about their upcoming fights and whatsoever. He then got signed a deal with Fox Sports in 2011, before the UFC was on Fox Sports, and started to work the events, right? He was on the events, interviewing Dana, interviewing the fighters, whatsoever. And back then, him and Dana, at the beginning at least, were very cool with each other. There are a few interviews where you see Dana saying, "Hey, I missed you, blah, blah, blah." Like, he seemed to like him at the beginning.
Is he awesome?
Then Ariel, though, during this time with Fox, started to talk a lot about fighter pay and had interviews with ex-UFC or still active UFC fighters that had some issues with the UFC, right? And it always seemed like Ariel was on their side, like on the fighter side and not on the UFC side. And what you have to see is Ariel is also a journalist that I believe this is a good thing. I believe this is what a journalist should do. He asks critical questions. He's not the guy that just asks you all the questions you want to hear. I have to say, sometimes he goes a little bit off board. Sometimes he goes a little bit too far with his questions, in my opinion. But overall, I like a journalist that challenges the people. A journalist is not there to be your best friend. A journalist is there to challenge you. But obviously, sometimes he just asks some weird questions, and Dana obviously didn't like that. So over the time, Dana and Ariel then started to, not be that good friends anymore, and Dana was angry at Ariel several times because of, as I said, some stupid or some challenging questions that Dana just did not like, right? So the UFC then signed with Fox Sports, and I think not too long after, Ariel got fired from Fox Sports. I believe it was March 2016, without official reason. And Ariel to this day says he believes it's because of the UFC. Because Fox Sports signed with UFC has an influence on Fox Sports then obviously. And yeah, as I told you, he just got on UFC's nerves a couple of times, had interviews with Rory McDonald, for example, where they just discussed what's not, like all the bad things about the UFC whatsoever. And yeah, he got fired, but he still had his press credentials, he still could attend UFC events. The UFC did not state anything officially to him that they fired him from Fox Sports, you know what I mean? It was all unofficial. But then, 3 months later, is where shit hit the fan. 4th of June 2016, UFC 199. Hook Hackholt versus Michael Bisping. Ariel Helwani is there at the event, and you have to see, sometimes media members get premature access to information, because obviously when you're around all the people all the time of the organization, you hear some rumors here and there, and you can ask some people there about confirmation whatsoever. That's all right. But obviously, I think it's pretty clear that if you get sensitive information, you work with the UFC and try to coordinate with them. Hey, can I publish this? Do you have plans for this? Because at the end of the day, it's about working together. If they provide you with good information, if they give you access to UFC events and you can get to these informations, you shouldn't just publish them without asking them. But that's what Ariel did. Ariel heard about news on this event that Brock Lesnar will return, which was a big thing back then, and that Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 2 will be booked or is in the works. And he then, without talking to the UFC, published it on Twitter. He thought, hey, it might be a smart idea if I just post this on Twitter. Nice idea. Well, didn't play out to be that nice. Dana White then called him into his office. Ariel went to Dana's office, and Dana, I think, made it pretty quick and said, look, Ariel, you are not allowed to attend any UFC event ever again. as long as I'm president here, please leave the building and go to Bellator, he said.
If you don't know, now you know.
And yeah, Ariel then came out crying, did like interviews where he was crying and blah, blah, blah. I'm the victim, this and that. I didn't like that too much by Ariel, but I can understand that he was frustrated. Nevertheless, he then went on his own show again, the MMA Hour, blah, blah, blah. He was kind of enemies with the UFC in some way, but he still covered the sport. He just wasn't allowed to attend UFC events anymore. Then Ariel signed a deal with ESPN. ESPN then, same as Fox Sports, a little bit later signed a deal with the UFC. And then they had a special agreement that Ariel was allowed to be on UFC events, weigh-ins, fights, whatever, until Dana White showed up. So every time Ariel was at a UFC event, like half an hour before Dana arrived at the venue, he got escorted out of the building by security, which obviously kind of sucks. You go there to cover a UFC event, and then Dana, I don't know, decides to show up during the prelims, and you just have to go again after 1 hour of being there. You know what I mean? This was pretty bad for Ariel, but at least he could attend UFC events in some ways again, right? The contract between Ariel and ESPN then was fulfilled, so done, and Ariel and ESPN decided to not work together anymore in the future, which is totally fine, and Ariel is, as of right now, still doing his own show again, the MMA Hour. Good for him, right? But to this day, still, they're always beefing with each other whenever they can. Ariel still takes a lot of shot at the UFC, and every attempt he gets to shit on Dana White, he shits on Dana White. Really, like, I love Ariel, but he really, everything that Dana does that's not 100% perfect, he shits on him. Everything the UFC does that's not 100% perfect, he shits on them. And I do believe UFC is the best organization ever. Nobody's perfect, but they are as close to perfect as it gets. Dana White's the best president any organization could ever ask for. He's the OG of the fight game.
Dana White, the OG of the fight game.
100%. And Ariel, in my opinion, is definitely top 3 journalist of all time. He's a great journalist.
Do real journalism. That's why you guys aren't journalists.
But I just believe it's kind of silly that they still beef each other so much. And even Dana, like, sometimes a little bit childish, how he is happy when someone shits on Ariel Helwani. It's just like two brothers that separated from each other and they will never like each other ever again. So I don't believe there will ever be an end to this beef. I don't believe they will ever shake each other's hands. It will be like Conor Habib, I believe. I don't know, somehow it's MMA culture now. Ariel and Dana, that they beef, it's part of the MMA culture. But that was a story about the whole beef. If you have any questions about it, write in the comments, guys. Write your opinion in the comments. Whose side are you on? All in the comments, guys. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and that you don't get banned from UFC events. Eat your fruits and eat your vegetables, guys. Until the next one, bye-bye. Bloodsport out.